When I share examples from my life or other people's lives, it ends up bringing up things for you that only helps you grow faster. It helps you feel less alone and makes you feel less absolutely crazy. I mean, you are crazy, but it takes you out of being in the level of, I am unwell and I can't do anything in this life. You have some years where your harvest is even better than expected. You have some years where it's significantly worse than expected. This is so similar when it comes to manifestation and our lives. Did you know that your subconscious mind controls 95% of your daily actions, meaning most of your success or a lack of it is running on autopilot? If you've ever felt stuck, like no matter how hard you push, you keep hitting an invisible wall, this episode is for you. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden blocks that keep you playing small, the subconscious patterns that are quietly running the show like a really bad app that's draining the heck out of your phone battery. And most importantly, I am going to take you through exactly how to break free and step into your next level of success. It's time to rewrite the script, rewire your mind, and finally unlock the success, the wealth, and the freedom that are already waiting for you. Let's get started. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? This is your host, Tiffany Carter, and you are listening to the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your abundance, your relationships, and everything in between. First of all, are you fed up with pouring so much energy and time into your business only to get a few or no clients, not even sales? Brace yourselves for a total game changer. My world famous 3 days to make bank online in your business is back, and this free live training will set you up to get cash flowing into your business and quickly. This event only happens once a year and it always reaches full capacity. So run and secure your spot right now. Like, pause this episode and go make sure that you are registered. You can go to projectmewithtiffany.com/make bank. You can swipe up. The link is right inside the show notes for you. It is also in my link in bio on Instagram and TikTok at projectmewithtiffany. Go to projectmewithtiffany.com/make bank. Share with friends, share with people on your team, anyone who is wanting to leverage the online space in order to get more leads, more customers, more clients, more sales for your business. Whether you have a product-based business, whether you have a service-based business, whether you're a healer, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a coach, it does not matter. What I will be teaching you over these 3 days will in fact work. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people who've participated who attest to this. All right, this is story time. And I feel like I've gotten away from telling you guys stories lately. And I don't know why that happened, but we need to get back into it because I know that when I share examples from my life or other people's lives, it ends up bringing up things for you that only helps you grow faster. It helps you feel less alone and makes you feel less absolutely crazy. I mean, you are crazy, but it takes you out of being in the level of, I am unwell and I can't do anything in this life. First thing that you need to know is that it is normal to feel this way when you are going after big things. In fact, if you are experiencing a timeline jump, one of the main signs of having that, and if you've never heard of what a timeline jump is, listen, if you told me anything about a timeline jump, even 3 years ago, I would have been like, this biatch has lost her damn mind. This certainly sounds like hocus pocus. It is not. It is in fact real, and I have the receipts to prove it. A timeline jump is basically what could have taken you like 10 years to achieve. It can happen even in 6 months. It can happen even in a year, and any sort of time collapsing frame. And it's not just some like magical thing that occurs. It's happening because you have been primed and you have put in work. It's kind of like if you look at crops. Not that I'm someone who's like super into agriculture, but fun fact, when I was a TV newscaster, one of my first jobs when I was was a beginning reporter was I was on the ag beat, as they called it. And I had to go in the fields, okay? I had to go in the fields of central Washington and talk about crops and cows. And it was interesting, to say the least. But an interesting thing with this analogy about crops is that you have some years where your harvest is even better than expected. You have some years where it's significantly worse than expected. You have years where you kind of anticipated it being bad because of weather conditions and how it's impacting the soil. This is so similar when it comes to manifestation and our lives. You still do the work to tend to the soil, to tend to the crops, to protect it, to set it up for success. But you can also end up yielding the best harvest ever. And you put in even the same amount of effort, or maybe you just tweaked a couple things, even by 2%. And that was the magic secret sauce that ended up coming with a giant payoff where you're making more money and you're more bountiful than ever. This is no different than in real life. We just tend to tell ourselves a story that I'm going to have to work 1,000 times harder. I'm going to have to do more. I'm going to have to go do this. I'm going to have to do things I don't want to do in order to get the result. And you'll hear me often say on here, a lot of the times it's that you actually have to do less to make more, or you need to actually follow a real strategy in order to get real results instead of doing shit from your ass. From your ass. Which leads me to this episode today about, being, getting yourselves unblocked. And you have the ability to do it. You've convinced yourself for so long that you're blocked or you're stuck that you end up staying in that exact spot. So the first order of business before I go into the story is I need you to be open and willing and say in your own way, I have surrendered. I have lost my mind. I have been blocked. I have been stuck for so long and I'm not available for this anymore. And I am open and willing to whatever message that I need to hear, whatever lesson that I need to see, whatever it may be, in order for me to move through this. I no longer want to stay stagnant. I don't want to be in this spot. And I know you don't want to. And I know you've said every version of it to yourself, to other people, where it's like, oh, I'm so tired of being in this spot. I don't want to be in this spot. I'm embarrassed that I'm in this spot. I'm so sick of myself. And I think that that's actually a good thing, because that's when you can end up having the biggest timeline shift, is when you are in so much discomfort, so much pain, so frustrated, so sick and tired of being sick and tired that you are willing to do something different. You are willing to make tweaks. You are willing to put your ego aside and see some hard truths about yourself where you wouldn't have been before. You wouldn't have been open to it. You would have maybe blown it off. You wouldn't have been willing to do the extra things or the different things, the uncomfortable things that you need to do in order to get out of your own way. And I got to tell you, you are going to have to do some uncomfortable things, because anything new, anything different is going to read as hard to your nervous system because you haven't done it before, whether it's a sport, whether you're cooking a new type of a dish or cuisine, whether it's a new communication style, whether you are doing a new workout. Yes, like when I first started Pilates near the end of 2024, I was like, oh my God, these Pilates bitches who have been doing this are no joke. And I did Pilates like years ago, and I remembered it being hard, but I forgot. I was humbled. I even was crying during the class because I was so humbled, and I could have easily not come back. But if I wanted what I wanted, which I wanted the results, I wanted to feel tight and lean and tone in a way that didn't spike my cortisol. And I definitely saw other people in the class who were regulars, and I could see the results and the payoff of being consistent with it. I knew I had to get over the hump of it being hard. So that's the second thing I want you to say to yourself. I am willing to keep going through the hump of it being hard. I'm aware I'm going to have to do some things that feel hard. They're not hard. They're just new. They're just different. They're just unfamiliar. And I'm willing to do that in order to get unstuck, in order to get unblocked, because I'm not available for this shit anymore. Really. Like, we're done with this. And we're early enough in 2025 where you can still save yourself. All right. So don't start telling yourself a story. But I know what's going to happen when the weather starts turning turning and we're in another season, your asses are going to start to panic because you're going to go, oh my God, we're in a new season. We're already deep into the year and I am still exactly where I was. That is a choice at this point, especially when you're listening to this episode. So here's story time. When I went to go to the jungle, and if you've been following on my Instagram stories and my TikTok stories at Project Me with Tiffany, I've been sharing behind the scenes of my jungle experience. It's at my friend's retreat called the Breathe Retreat at Regina Lawrence. And there's somatic healing work, breath work. It is to heal on a deep level, on a subconscious level. It's not just to talk about your stuff. It is going on a cellular level because that is where all the things really occur. Like I shared that stat with you in the intro, that this is where your daily actions are coming from, is 95% of it is subconscious. We think it's pushing ourselves, talking to ourselves, rah-rahing ourselves, even being mean to ourselves, bullying ourselves to get ourselves to do something or to stop doing. But if your subconscious is working against you, you're going to end up in a sticking point, which is where you're at. You may be saying all the things and looking at motivational stuff, listening to this podcast, setting intentions, writing in your journal, even actively doing things like abundance walks and all of that, but it's still not working. It's because your subconscious is basically at a standstill and is a big blockade. And if you don't start addressing that stuff at a subconscious level, you're going to remain exactly where you're at. So when I went into this retreat, and I've done this retreat before, and the reason that I invest in things like this isn't just to support the people that I care about. That's not necessary. I do these things because I know how much the payoff is. This is why when I tell you about stuff like my 3 Days to Make Bank live training series, this is free, but it's still an investment of your time and energy, and why I give you plenty of advance notice to be able to block your schedules to show up live, because I know what payoff is waiting for you there. I know what payoff is waiting for me when I put myself in an environment where I feel safe, but I still feel vulnerable, where I have primed myself, and my attitude going in it is I really want to get to the bottom of some things that have been bothering me. So I'm already priming my conscious and subconscious mind. We're doing this thing. We're safe and supported. We're being guided, and I am open and willing and available to hear what comes up and really take it in and be humble of what information comes up. Because let's be real, you're blocked because of you. It's not because of anyone else. It's not because of politics. It's not because of the economy. It's not because of a boss. It's not because of something with your business. It's not because of the Instagram algorithm. It's because of you, some form of you. And that's not for you to like badger yourself about it. It's so that you wake up and you address it. That's the beautiful thing. So we can't change other people, but we can change ourselves. So going into this retreat, I know that there is this area of my life that truly has been, I guess you could say, holding me back from growing this business and podcast to the next level, of me going to my highest level in my life overall, with me helping people and me helping myself. Okay. And I know that it's around support, me feeling supported, me feeling safe, me having the right people around me that I can count on. It is a sensitive topic for me because how I grew up, if you've not listened to any of the chapters of my book, From Abuse to Abundance, I think you would find it really interesting, but just know there's a trigger warning. It is a pretty intense story, but I grew up in a highly abusive environment with my main parent being a narcissist, and I didn't have the support. Were there people around? Sure. But these weren't people who were willing or capable for whatever reason of protecting me, of standing up for me, of doing anything about it. So what happens when you are in an environment like that? It could be later in life. You could have been in a marriage like that. You could have been in some sort of a work dynamic like that. Is we end up recreating traumatic experiences. We recreate things from our childhoods so that we can work through them. It's the last thing we want to do, but it's what ends up happening. And it can show up in any area of our life. And in fact, it usually shows up in every area, even in an unsuspecting way. There's been fleeting times where I felt fully supported in my business. And this is not taking away from anybody who works for me, who's listening, or who I've hired. What I'm saying by the proper support is enough people I can count on to be there for the long run, people who really are not threatened by my level of success and vulnerability and visibility, and having that support in my personal life. You know, that saying of it's lonely at the top, it's fucking true. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm someone who's at the top and better than people. I know, you know, I'm not saying that. But the more successful you get and the more visibility you have, it triggers other people's shit. People either feel like, oh, I'm not worthy of working for this person or being in this person's life because I'm nowhere near that, or it feels like it's too much pressure because there's so much visibility, all of their own gunk comes up, or it's triggering because they actually want what you have but aren't willing to do all the things necessary to get there. And then they end up getting angry at you because of their own self-hatred, and it gets projected out, and there's a whole slew of other things. So I intentionally wanted to get to the root of what is going on with the support thing, because I keep telling myself the story, and anything we keep telling ourselves ends up being true. You keep telling yourself you're stuck. You keep telling yourself you're blocked. You keep telling yourself you're unmotivated. You keep telling yourself you're confused, overwhelmed, this isn't working, and you keep saying it. I promise you, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you can go, see, it's not working. See, I'm even more confused now. And we have to get to the root of that. And sometimes we don't catch ourselves until we hear something like this episode I'm doing. And you're going, oh my God, I have been telling myself the same story. We don't realize it. It's kind of like there's like a little bit of a squeak going on in your car, and you hear it sometimes, but not all the time. And it's not annoying enough for you to do anything about it. It's not bothering you enough to do anything about it until it is. And I promise you, it is causing an abundance leak in your life, but the leak may have been slow. And it's not until that leak gets wider and bigger and more obvious do we wake up to it, which is why when I talk about this timeline jump, if you've been experiencing a lot of pain, a lot of back-to-back shit that's gone on, you know, you've gotten sick, you've lost money, you had a friend betray you, you know, all this stuff going on, and it really looks like, wow, nothing is happening in my favor. My life is going to shit. My response is, oh no, you are being primed for a grand awakening. You are being primed for a timeline jump, for a full recalibration. You are being put into so much discomfort and pain so that your ass wakes up, is humble, surrenders, and is willing to do the uncomfortable, even the hard thing, in order to shift into a new and expanded version of yourself. And I knew just from all the work that I've done that something was going on with this, because I had so many things happen from the end of 2024 to the beginning of 2025 where I was being hit in the support department, and I kept going, I can't depend on anybody. No one has my back. Everyone wants to fuck me. No one really gives a shit. I mean, over and over and over again, to where listen, it was not cute. I had an emergency therapy session. I started getting suicidal ideation, to where I was like, I don't want to be here if it's going to be this hard, because it's so hurtful and it's so painful and it's such a betrayal, and it really, really hits me on a guttural level, because I know how I show up as a boss, as a friend, as a compadre to people. I'm not perfect, and we all do things that disappoint one another and let one another down, but I am always here to have an honest conversation about it and work through it. it. And I know how much I do for those around me, people that are strangers and people who are in my life. And so it's like, what is going on? And really, it's victim speak. When you think about this stuff, when you're saying you're stuck and this isn't happening, that isn't happening, it's not attractive to admit, but I was putting myself in a victim-y kind of a spot. Like, I'm not supported, I'm not supported, I'm not supported. And so therefore, I kept having things happen that where I wasn't supported. So I want you to ask yourself right now, as I like go into the story, to use it as an example to help you get unblocked. What's a story you keep saying to yourself? What story are you telling yourself about why you can't move forward? What is it? When you think about your next level of success, what kinds of things come up? What fears and doubts come up? What thoughts do you have? You know, and you heard me say it, right? I'm being vulnerable first to help you get to the root of your own stuff. When I answer these questions of what story am I telling of myself about why I can't move forward, meaning why I'm not expanding on the level I want to expand at, I don't have the support. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I don't feel supported. That's the story. And when we remind ourselves it's a story, it's a nice way of reminding ourselves that that's all it is. It's a story we keep saying, and we keep saying it to the point where we're now manifesting it into reality. When I think about the next level of my success, what fears and doubts come up, that I won't be supported, I'll be left high and dry, that I'll be left all alone. That's really what it comes down to. I'll be left all alone because I've had a lot of evidence as I've grown from making $17,000 a year and all these different points of success and notoriety and visibility and money and all of this stuff. Wow. Have I been bamboozled by people, betrayed by people, stolen from, hurt, people who I thought were friends who were really haters in disguise? All sorts of shit happen. And it's like, God, if I even expand even further, that's going to happen even more. And I don't want to happen any more or any bigger or any further. So therefore, I'm going to close myself off now and stay in my own little bubble and prevent myself from my ultimate expansion, because I'm now telling myself a story that in order to expand even larger, to even get bigger, to even have more visibility, I'm going to have to pay an even more painful price. And I can sit here and line up lots of supporting evidence to that. But how does that serve me to keep attached to that story? It doesn't. What's the cost involved? The cost is I'm going to stay where I'm at. In fact, I'll start sliding backwards, because what I'm telling myself is it's safer for me to make less money. It's safer for me to not be as visible. It's safer for me to not be as dynamic, to not help as many people, to not be as out there in the world. And so then I make myself smaller and smaller, and it can be a slippery slope. It can happen so gradually you don't even realize you're doing it, like the squeaky noise in your car, until it really wakes you up. So I want you to ask yourself those two questions. So in the jungle, I knew where I was going with my intention of what I wanted divine guidance from, what I wanted to tap into my subconscious about, my inner guide, what I wanted to tap into the universe about and get signs and messages and clarity. And I was willing to get it in any form, including have it reflected to me from any of the other attendees that were with me. Because a lot of times there is great wisdom and things that we need to hear that are spoken through other people. And I want to remind you of that. Maybe there's something you hear me say today on this episode. Maybe it's from another episode of mine. It's from a piece of content from mine or an email that I send. And that's the thing that you needed to hear. It could be from a complete stranger, which I've had that happen too. Now, in this case, when I was doing a very strong dosing of mushrooms, might I add, and this was a medicine journey, right? This wasn't like mushrooms and Tiffany's partying, okay? This was led in a very safe way, individual dosing, and with true intention of healing, in which it did. I realized, number one, I am batshit, okay? Like, part of what makes me so unique and why I'm such an excellent business and marketing strategist is because I think differently. I operate differently. It's not conventional strategy that I do. I have an unconventional approach, which is why the results I get people are substantial. You know, I almost forgot to tell you guys this. I messed up. I thought that there were no spots left for my 2-month private business coaching program, and I can take one more person in that container. I only take 4 private clients at a time. You can swipe up, and the application is inside the show notes. I didn't want to forget to tell you that, and I almost did before I went on my mushroom recap journey over here. So you're wanting to be able to have the personalized, the customized strategy that is going to get you the results, the sales, the clients that you want, to where you have the consistency, where you have the reoccurring revenue, where you're developing passive income streams, so you can go away and go on healing retreats, or you can decide to go somewhere and stay longer and change your flight if you want, because you make money whether you're actively working in your business or not, because you've set it up that way. So I even shared in the receipts on my Instagram how much money I made. I made more in the week and a half I was gone than I did all of January. That's the power of setting up your business in this way. And this is exactly what we do inside my 2-month private business coaching program. So you can swipe up to apply to that. Don't wait on it, because I triple checked and we have room for one more person. So on these mushrooms, as I am walking the beautiful jungle of the Sian Khan in Tulum, it's like 3 hours from town. Okay. Like I could have been left for dead and eaten by a jaguar there, and no one would have found me. Now, thankfully, the person facilitating the retreat, Regina, which if you've been listening to my episodes, she comes on as a guest co-host and we tell a lot of stories. She knows me. She knows that I need to wander. I must disappear to find myself. And so I made sure that she was reminded of this, as was the group. And I also have enough wits about me that I wasn't going to go too far where I was going to get lost. And I also knew not to go in the ocean, although I did think about it and I did stop myself, because I was like, I might not make it if I do this. Going into the ocean on mushrooms is probably not the best idea. And when the medicine really kicked in, I trusted my body to know when it was time to move. You don't have to do this medicine in order for you to get to your subconscious, okay? That's certainly not required. I like experimenting with all different modalities and different ways to tap into the subconscious, because I know that's where the fucking answers lie. I mean, 8% is in our conscious. So you want success, you want next level growth, you want to get unblock. The answer is the fucking subconscious. No matter what modality you're doing, you can experiment with different things and see what works. And at different times, different things work better than others for me. So my body knew that it was time to get moving. It was time to go. I didn't have to decide, do I go this way down the beach or that way down the beach? I asked the question. My body said, we're going this way, and then we might go back and go down the other way. There is no wrong way. And I am walking, and I'm telling you, thank God we were in the middle of nowhere. It's not like there's like resorts and stuff. Like, thank God there was no one. I may have been picked up and been put in a mental institution. I talk out loud. Even when I am doing stuff, working on emails, and I'm doing a sales page, and I'm planning for 3 days to make bank, I am talking out loud. I am answering myself out loud. This is all day long here. Okay. I know I'm a little batshit. It was on another level. I was talking to my subconscious, and my subconscious was answering me. And then I even had the universe get involved. Then God is talking to me. And we've got a lot of conversations going, and all of them are being verbalized by me, and with very adamant hand gestures. I asked the question, what is going on with this support story that I'm telling myself? Please help me see what I need to see. I'm willing to see it. Let's talk about it. And we're working through it. And the question was posed by one of the voices, which ultimately really is my subconscious, right? And the question was, what are you afraid would happen if you had all the most remarkable support around you? Just undeniable, trustworthy, genuine, top tier quality, top tier capabilities and skills support around you. And I was like, well, I wouldn't be afraid of that. That's exactly what I want. Why would I be afraid of that? I'm more so afraid of not having it. And everyone was quiet. All the people. All the people that weren't there. And I went, okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying there obviously is a fear there. There's a resistance there, just like some of you guys have when it comes to abundance, when it comes to money, when it comes to maybe growing your audience, having all the things, having all the money, having the love interest in your life. If it's not here and it's not being called in and you have a story around it, there's likely a fear of what will happen when you get it. And I just started talking out loud with everything that was coming up. And it was so much chatter. It was like static on a radio station, static on a TV. It was such a bunch of nonsense and noise. It was like, well, in order for me to have that, I'm going to have to pay even more people. And I'm going to have to pay people all of this money. And then all those people are going to be heavily dependent on me for their livelihoods. And what if I don't bring in enough money to make sure I can make payroll and that they can get paid and that I'm going to be able to get paid? And I really don't love like managing a bunch of people and personalities. And what if all I'm doing then is managing people and having to, deal with writing people up, and it doesn't sound fun. And oh my God, it just kept going and going and going. And ultimately, what the result was is that it's all a bunch of shit. All of it was me creating all of this static because ultimately me having that next level of visibility feels scary to me. And what I've plugged in order to hold myself back subconsciously, meaning without realizing it, was you can't go to your next level of expansion, growth, and visibility because you don't have the right support. And therefore, what did I do? I ended up hiring people that really weren't the most expansive and right level of support for me and my business. I was holding myself back truly because of the fear of being seen. And I'm taking you all through this to show you how many fucking layers this goes, and that the thing you think is the problem and the thing you keep chewing on and the thing you keep over analyzing on that you think is the fucking problem actually is a mask for what the real fucking problem is. And it was my fear of being seen, which I have a 2-part series on that from, I believe it's from 2022 or early 2023 that went viral. It's an excellent series. And what happened to me when I blew up from like 700 followers on TikTok, and in like 6 or 7 weeks, I was at like 250,000. I was in the fetal position rocking. It was such a timeline jump. It was so much expansion so fast. And I was so afraid that I was going to pay a price for it. Where does that tie back to? And that's the question you're going to ask yourself next. Once you go on a walk, you meditate, you go in the bath, you do some kind of aversion. Again, you do not need to be on mushrooms, or you can use THC, or you can use nothing, but get yourself in a state where you can be quiet enough and you can be tapped in enough to allow yourself to hear the subconscious without your ego, meaning your mind, that 8% fucking blocking that 92%, and ask yourself about what happened in childhood. When else in your life did you pay a price for being seen? When was it safer for you to be stuck than seen? When was it safer for you to be small instead of expand? When was it safer for you to just blend in versus stand out? Literally my entire childhood, and quite honestly, in corporate America as well, my corporate career, both as a newscaster and in my corporate pharmaceutical sales career and management career, and with my mother. You never want to outshine a narcissist. That doesn't go well, and it was not safe for me to do that. I did pay a price. So my whole system, even though I already have gone through this whole fear of being seen, but now we're expanding to another level. This is why when I work with my private clients, people inside my ProjectME Posse business coaching membership, inside Selling with Soul, which will be launching the first week of March, my signature program that, oh my God, best thing I do all year. I only launch it once a year for a reason. I digress on that. I don't want to give too much away on that. You want to make sure that you have access to the pre-sale on that. You need to be registered to 3 Days to Make Bank online, my free live training series. That will give you pre-sale access where you get $1,000 off Selling with Soul, which is absolute insanity. So you're asking yourself, when did this pay off for me? When was it safer, basically, for me to play small, for me to be behind the scenes, for me to accept breadcrumbs instead of demanding and honoring that I deserve the whole loaf? Another question to ask yourself is this belief actually mine? Or did I inherit it from a family member, from society, from a past experience? Because we can have even one minor experience. It doesn't have to be like some giant trauma. We can have a minor encounter. We could have had someone say one thing to us, some like nasty kid in middle school, and that alone can cement in a belief that's not true. It's old, but it's been implanted into our subconscious, and it's been a running program, like having tabs open on a computer that has been occupying the space, causing energy leaks, causing abundance leaks for you, and you've not realized it, which is why it's so important to do this kind of work, this subconscious work, this mindset work, really taking time for yourself and quiet time that's undistracted to go within. First of all, I would not have been able to operate a phone on mushrooms, but do you think that I would have gotten to this major sense of awareness of what was going on if I was just scrolling on my phone, binge watching Netflix, constantly occupying myself with people, places, and things? No. All of my realizations happen either when I'm being coached by one of my coaches, my therapist, in a deep, undistracted conversation with someone. That someone could be myself, God, spirit guides, the universe, inanimate object. That is when this stuff comes up. Likely, this belief isn't yours. It could be the product of someone that's around you that constantly says it. It could be programming that's been marketed into you just from being in like the corporate world, or just the type of community that you've grown up in, and it's a general consensus. People from the South all say this, East Coasters say this, people who live in India, experience this. It can be cultural stuff that you've inherited, but it's a story. You get to change it. That doesn't have to be true. In fact, it likely isn't true. And even if there was some truth from it at some point in your life, this doesn't need to be the truth for forever and a day, right? Yes, it was true in my childhood, young adulthood, and truly, I would say all of my 20s. It was true that being too shiny came at a big cost. That was a fact. But it's not a fact anymore. There are things that happen when you shine bright, right? It does make other people feel uncomfortable, but the right people, and those people do exist, want to support you, want to see you shine. In fact, they were brought here to be the supporters. They just don't want to be the front person. It's not like they're not shining in their own way. They just don't want the front spot. That's not their zone of genius. And my zone of genius isn't to do the tech stuff, isn't to do all the inner workings of a company, isn't necessarily sitting and managing people. Those are very important roles, as is mine. And it requires all of us. You want to shine big, you want to do big things, you can't do them on your own. You need other people, but it's the right people. So then the voice said, one of the voices, is this why you've been picking people that also have a fear of being seen? And I went, oh my God, I did not realize this. And so I was also surrounding myself by a lot of people who had a fear of visibility. So why would they want to support me in shining and expanding and being more visible when visibility terrifies them? Where visibility makes them feel all sorts of things, whether they realize it or not. And it was shooketh. There were other things that transpired in the 6 hour experience that I'll be interjecting into other episodes, especially if you appreciate some of these stories to help get you there. But I really want you to answer these questions. You probably need to listen to this episode again and even write these down. And I want to leave you with two more that came up to me during this experience that I know will help you. What emotions are you avoiding feeling? So the whole thing with support, the whole thing of visibility, I don't want to feel that feeling of abandonment, of being scared, of being all alone, of having no one, of being all by myself in this world, of feeling like I'm free falling and there's no parachute and there's nothing to catch me and there's no soft place to land, and not feeling grounded. That's what I was avoiding feeling. But in us avoiding feeling the things that we don't want to feel, you end up creating it. Me too. So me avoiding feeling all alone, I ended up all alone because of my behaviors, because I was picking people who weren't the right people, who ended up betraying me, abandoning, short-circuiting, self-sabotaging, etc. You see what I mean? It's like when someone has a fear of someone cheating on them because maybe a parent, they had a dad who cheated on the mom, and then they've had other relationships where someone cheated. So now they're afraid of someone cheating and they have that fear of someone cheating. Then your behaviors are in such a way where you're not trusting of the person that you're with, and you're pushing them away and you're accusing them and you're looking at their shit, and then they end up leaving you in some way anyway. It's like you create the very thing you're afraid of. What emotions are you avoiding feeling? And then this last one, I can imagine you guys visualizing me in the jungle talking to myself like in the wilderness to God knows what. And the next question is, if my block had a voice, what would it say to me? What is this voice saying to you? So my block started talking to me. I hope you're tracking this. Either you're tracking it and you're like, okay, I get where we're going here. Or you're like, Tiff is even more batshit than I thought and I like it. Or you're like, I am absolutely never listening to this show again. My guess is you're a fellow crazy and you're here for it. The block was saying wild shit to me. Like I started arguing with the block. The block was like morphed into my mom. There were all sorts of crazy things happening. And I'm telling you, do even a writing exercise around it. If you're not someone who like is a verbal processor like me, write it down. You could even practice non-dominant handwriting, which is an excellent skill to get to the subconscious. So if you're right-handed, you would write in your left hand, and it doesn't matter how messy it is, but you ask the question and answer it in the non-dominant hand. And that's another interesting way to kind of bypass the ego and get to that subconscious. What does this voice have to say to you? And whose voice does that sound like? Where is that coming from? And what do you have to say back to that voice? All of this blocked stuff that you have going on, this stuck crap, this is all bullshit. This is all stuff that feels true. Okay. So I'm not taking away of how it feels. All of this stuff, literally, I was feeling like I was being strangled for months from it. So it feels true. Okay. But it's all coming from our reaction to all of these beliefs and all these stories we're telling ourselves. This does not need to be true. There gets to be another truth. There gets to be another way. And I saw what my role in it was. And my ego was stepped aside where I went, I see what you're doing, Tiffany. I see who you were hiring, who were you innocently surrounding yourself by. You were just building that caseload of you're not supported, because then you wouldn't have to shine. I wasn't yelling at myself. I'm not mad at myself. Yes, there was lots of months of, I guess you could say, wasted potential and lost time, but we see things when we're ready to see them. And sometimes it takes years, sometimes it's a week. And once you see them, you can't go back into denial about them either. So now you have to do something about it, because now you can't say you're stuck. Now it's a choice, because now you know why. So what did I do immediately? Well, not while on mushrooms, but in the near future, after I wasn't on mushrooms, is I created an action plan, nothing that was complicated, and a manifestation plan of the support that I'm calling in that would feel good to me. And I know it exists. You know why I know it exists? Because I have experienced that in my life. I do have some people in my life that do exhibit that top tier support, and I'm a great example of it. There was no better intern and no better employee than me, okay? Like, I'm a great employee of my own company. I'm that. Like attracts like. So if I exist, I know there's other people like me that exist that have high integrity, that their skill set is best served in doing more behind the scenes stuff, and they delight in that, and they want that, and they love what this brand stands for and what I stand for, and they want to see me shine and expand, and it doesn't threaten them, and it doesn't bring up their own stuff. In fact, it feels really good to them, and it feels exciting, and they delight in it. Just like what I do feels exciting, and I delight in it. And we have to remind ourselves that what we want really does exist. It's not some fantasy. It exists. We've just been telling ourselves this other story for so long that we get blinded to the other reality that is literally sitting right in front of us. So if you loved this episode, you loved this topic, this take on it, please take a screenshot, share this episode in your Instagram stories, Facebook stories, TikTok stories at Project Me with Tiffany. You can always DM me on Instagram and give me specific topic suggestions, feedback on episodes, reply to any of the emails that I send to you guys. I love that. Of course, leaving a 5-star review is very appreciated. You can tap the 5 stars on Spotify. That goes a long way. It takes 1 second. You can tap the 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts, and you can also leave a written review on Apple Podcasts, which is really appreciated. Subscribe to Project Me TV on YouTube. You can, of course, comment in real time while you're watching the pod if you're more of a visual learner in that way. And make sure you go grab your spot to 3 Days to Make Bank online, my once a year free live training series. It's valued at $25,000. That's literally how much I charge corporations to do the same training. This is not a sales fest. You are literally walking away with 3 days of direct high-level group coaching from me. And the only way that you can get the pre-sale for my signature program, Selling with Soul, is to be signed up for 3 Days to Make Bank. So even if you're like, shit, I can't make like one of the live days, it's okay. First of all, I'm giving 48-hour access to replay, but I would highly suggest that you do whatever you can to attend live. You'll see why. We're doing $13,000 in prizes, but it's also like the abundance and the energy of being live is so contagious that any rut you're in, you want more motivation, inspiration, you want to get some incredible ideas, really start getting into a mode of being productive instead of being paralyzed and analysis paralysis, come live and you'll see what happens. Okay. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you.